Okay, so the main agenda for today's session, let me tell you that. The agenda for today's session is requirements gathering, and we are going to talk about requirements elicitation using the brainstorming and mind mapping technique. So that will be the key focus of today's masterclass. We are going to explore the draw.io tool, how we can, the main agenda for today's how can we, that. The agenda for today's session is, just give me a moment. Yes. We will see how we can use draw.io tool to conduct mind mapping, brainstorming, and I will explain you the steps that are actually involved in requirements elicitation. Make a note of those steps. Very important when it comes to having elicitation sessions with your stakeholders. You need to know that. How can you use the RET template to create requirements elicitation questions for your requirement meeting? There is already a video bundle that's given to you. We'll explore that further. Interview, brainstorming, mind mapping, focus group, workshop, couple of techniques that are widely used in the industry. Okay. So our entire focus of today's discussion is going to be around requirements elicitation and specifically brainstorming and mind mapping as a technique. Before we start off with the main topic, a couple of announcements. We are going to have the graduation ceremony for our April Diamond batch on the 20th of July. So Rishabh and your batchmates are going to have the graduation ceremony on the 20th of July. Before that, each one of you have to prepare yourself for an exam. There will be an exam link sent to you. And all the concepts that are taught to you in Diamond certification that you learned as part of working on the 2 projects with us, that will be revised in that exam. So complete that examination and get ready for the graduation ceremony. So we'll do that. Our next cohort for Diamond batch will start on the 27th of July. Okay. And enrollments for the same are currently open. Some of you already have given your names, but others who would wish to get into the Diamond next cohort, you can definitely drop an email in the same email ID that is given to you, info@interactivelearning.in. Okay. So that's with respect to a couple of announcements that we have. And now let me talk about the main agenda. Requirements elicitation. Now, what are some of the keywords that come to your mind when you think about requirements elicitation? Type in the chat box. What is that keyword that comes to your mind when you think about requirements elicitation? Okay, gathering. Parinita says gathering. Draw information, Rupak. Need assessment, framing, problem statement, gap analysis. Wow, very nice. Looking for the needs of the stakeholders, stakeholder identification, understanding the scope of work, meetings with the customer. Wow, very good responses. So all of this keywords that you have given me, very, very apt to describe requirement elicitation and what exactly is happening. So requirements elicitation basically is the process of obtaining information from stakeholders. Very, very simple explanation, remember. Take down notes, guys. Definitely take down notes. Requirements elicitation is the process of obtaining information from stakeholders and confirming the results. Okay. Now, this is what Bebock states requirements elicitation as. Now, let's put it in a very, very simplified way. Okay. Let's say you're looking for an apartment. Okay. And you approach a real estate broker and you tell him that, okay, I'm looking for an apartment. You'll see that the real estate broker will ask you a couple of questions. He'll ask you some questions to understand what exactly your requirements are. He will ask you questions around what is the configuration that you're looking for. Okay, whether you are looking for a 1 BHK, 2 BHK, which is the location that you're looking for, where exactly you want the apartment. Okay. Whether you're planning to live there or you want to rent it out, what's the purpose of buying that apartment? He will ask you n number of questions to understand your requirements on that particular apartment before he can show you some of the shortlisted one. So it's the next logical step that he does is to show you a couple of photographs or catalog of apartments which he can shortlist for you based on your requirements, isn't it? How many of you can relate to that experience? You know, if you have been out looking for apartments, this is generally what happens, right? So when you look at the conversation that you had with that real estate broker, was also a requirements elicitation that was happening, right? Your real estate broker was obtaining information from you. And once he has obtained the information, he confirms, okay, this is my understanding of your requirement. You're looking for a 2 BHK, you're looking for an apartment in ABC locality and with so and so facilities around. So these are a couple of apartments that might fit into your budget and your requirement, isn't it? So for all the people who are career transition, you have never worked in IT, this is a very, very simple way of looking at requirements elicitation. Okay, your conversation between a real estate broker who is trying to shortlist few apartments based on your requirements. Okay, so the same perspective, if you put it now to the IT world, our customers, when they approach us with specific requirements. Okay, they also have specific needs, right? So their needs are to build a software that can automate ABC things. Okay, that can streamline their processes, that can improve their staff's productivity, increase revenues, or increase customer satisfaction ratings. So they have a different outcome that they wish to achieve. In the first case, I gave you a scenario where you were having a conversation with the real estate broker. Your outcome was to get an apartment that fits your budget and your requirements. Here, we are talking about a scenario where a customer approaches an IT vendor. So the customer can be a bank, insurance company, retail company, any domain, okay? These companies have their specific requirements of building softwares that will help them achieve certain goals. And for that, they tie up with an IT vendor who can help them build that software. Everyone clear so far? With this very simple example, is this very clear what requirements elicitation is? There's no need to stress out thinking, looking at the word elicitation. Many of you who are beginners in business analysis, they get stressed out when they hear the word elicitation. What exactly is happening over there? Okay. Great. Now, the steps to gather requirements or elicit requirements differs in the IT world. There are specific steps that we follow to ensure that our customers' requirements are carefully understood and analyzed. Okay. With a real estate broker, when you're discussing your needs of an apartment, your requirements of an apartment, you're having a free-flowing conversation. Okay. You just walk into his office and you can tell him, okay, this is what I'm looking for. But when you are developing a software for a customer, it has to be a more focused conversation, as well as the conversation should follow specific steps. There are specific steps that we need to take care of in order to ensure that we are able to give the desired outcome to our customer. Okay, that's the reason we have to carefully understand what are the steps required what are the steps that has to be kept in mind while doing a requirements elicitation. Okay, so note down the steps. Steps involved in requirements elicitation. So as a BA, when you are preparing for a requirements elicitation meeting, your first job is to read the source documents that are given to you. read the source documents. Number two, understand the scope of discussion in that meeting. Now, your source documents might be talking about several features that we want to develop in that application, okay? Several functionalities that has to be rolled out, but all of those functionalities cannot be discussed in one meeting, right? So that's the reason it is very, very essential for us to understand the scope of the upcoming requirements gathering meeting. So nail down the scope and then identify the stakeholders who you would like to invite in those meetings. Now, stakeholder analysis is a different technique in the business analysis world, which helps you identify who are the right stakeholders who should be invited to the meeting. Okay, so identify stakeholders. That's the third step. Remember, if you invite the wrong stakeholders for your meeting, you will get the wrong requirements. So it's very, very important. Step number 3 is very important. Always involve the right stakeholders. So stakeholder analysis is a technique we'll discuss in another session, how exactly you can identify who are your right stakeholders. But for now, step number 3, identify stakeholders. Step number 4, select a right elicitation technique. Okay. Like I told you in the example, very simple example that I gave you, between the real estate broker and yourself, you were having an interview technique, right? That's called the interview format of discussion, where one person is asking questions and the other person is answering those questions. Similarly, in our software world, there are a bunch of techniques that can be used. You will use a technique that suits your project. So, and there are a lot of factors that are considered for that. A lot of factors you have to keep in mind while deciding an appropriate requirements elicitation technique. Okay. So that's point number 4, select a proper elicitation technique. Point number 5 is prepare a question list. Okay, always before you get into any meeting, prepare a question list so that you are prepared for the meeting. You know what to ask because you are going to be the host of the meeting, guys. And just think about it. If the host is silent, what will the guests talk about? Okay, so question list, very, very important. Point number 6, prepare a detailed agenda for the meeting. Very, very important. Several customers refuse to come for meetings when agenda is not sent to them. So agenda for the meeting nails down the scope of the meeting. Not only, it's not a formality that you do by sending an agenda. When your customer stakeholders who are coming to the meeting, when they are aware of what is the functionality or what is the requirement that you are going to discuss in the meeting, they can prepare themselves and come for the meeting. Okay, that's the reason agenda is very important. Prepare a detailed agenda, then send the meeting invite to all the stakeholders, including the agenda and the question list. Okay. So some business analysts have this habit. They create the question list and they keep it with them. Doesn't solve the purpose. If you're creating a question list and you're keeping it with you, does not help it. You will have access to the questions, but your customer stakeholders also need access to those questions so that they can prepare themselves and come before the meeting. Okay. With respect to these steps, remember the step number 5, where I mentioned prepare a question list. There is a video in our learning management system, requirements framework bundle, which has a template called as RET template. Okay. Requirements elicitation template. Many of you are already aware of it, but for the people who have just joined today, you must have not got enough time to go through the course bundles that are given to you. But remember, there's a course bundle with the name called as Requirements Framework. And in the Requirements Framework course bundle, there is one video which says that how to prepare requirements questions using the RET template. Okay. So that will give you access to an Excel sheet template, which will help you understand what are the appropriate questions that should be taken to your customer. To definitely go, and after this workshop, you can go and watch that video that will help you understand how questions can be created using the bus formula. So there's a bus formula that we speak about: business-oriented questions, user action questions, and system response questions. Yes, Raja, these questions have an inbuilt technique that we follow as the 5W formula. Use the W's for creating questions, we say. But how to logically think about questions is using that bus formula. User action questions, system behavior questions, and business-oriented questions. So that's explained how the template is pretty easy to use. Go and download that Excel sheet and have a look at it. That will help you prepping for your requirements gathering meeting. Now, with respect to the different techniques of requirements gathering, I told you that there are several techniques. One technique is the interview technique, brainstorming. Again, you can mention this. Brainstorming is an idea generation technique. Okay. So if you want to ignite creative thinking in a group of people, use brainstorming. And brainstorming is generally used when your customer is very unclear of what he wants. So we are going to see a case study which will give you clarification as to when is the customer unsure about what he wants. So I will take you through a case study, and that will give you more insights on that. So don't worry on it. Okay. So brainstorming and mind mapping is something that we are going to explore today. That's a focus. Focus group workshop, two other techniques that are actively used for requirements gathering. Focus group says that, for the meeting as a BA, you will invite only focused people, focused set of participants. That means you will be having a selection criteria based on which you will send invitations out to stakeholders. For example, you might, as a BA, you might decide that all the participants that I want in this particular meeting should be managers and above managers, and should have at least to spend 5 years in this organization, because that's the kind of information you're looking for from them. So any employee who joins this meeting should have spent more than 5 years in the organization and should be manager or above, any kind of criteria. I'm just giving you examples. So that is a focus group meeting where you have a focused set of participants joining the meeting. And then we have workshops, just like we have a workshop right now going on. So these are workshop sessions where you talk about a particular requirement or concept, whatever. Workshops are done for various reasons. And then you might have activities to establish that, to further understand other person's viewpoint on it. That's workshop. And then there are other two techniques which are called as observation and survey. Survey questionnaire technique, we have already run through it, but we will bring it up in the coming sessions. You will have lots of surveys and questionnaires where you'll articulate questions for the new surveys. A very simple example of a very simple example of a survey technique. Whenever you purchase a particular product, you get a small survey, asking you, how did you like that particular product? How much would you rate the quality of that particular product? Those are surveys. So as business analysts, we also do a lot of surveys. And then the last one, observation. Anyone who can tell me the chat window, what do you think about observation? What is observation? As the name suggests, what exactly is observation? Shadowing someone, Rupak says. Shadowing. Yes, that's correct. That's correct. So in an observation technique, we are observing what the users are actually doing. Okay, this technique is predominantly used in cases where we feel a particular process or application is a little too complex for us to understand by just talking about it, by interviewing the stakeholders. So wherever we feel the interview will not work because it's a complex process or it's a complex application that they're using, then we would like to resort to the observation technique where we actually see the users using that particular application or the users performing a particular task. Because then when you are visually seeing certain things, it becomes easy for you to understand, right? It becomes easy. Yes. Yes, Preeti. Observing the workflow at the client's place. So many of you already know these concepts. I will now move on to using the brainstorming and mind mapping technique. Okay, we will do that. We will learn brainstorming and mind mapping technique. Very good, important piece of information coming from Elisa. Yes, there's active and passive observations. Thank you, Elisa, for reminding me with that. Yes, there are two types of observations that you will often see in the industry. One is the active observation, and the other the passive mode of observation. Active observation is whenever you are observing a workflow, observing a process being done in the organization, and as well as asking questions to the stakeholders at the same time. Okay, so if you are interviewing someone and at the same time observing what's happening, it's active. You are in the active observation mode. Passive is the direct opposite of it. That means no questions asked. You are just an observer over there. You're not supposed to ask any questions. So passive observation is where you are just watching the people doing a set of tasks and just taking notes. You're just taking notes, but you're not asking any questions. Everyone clear on this? Type here in the chat box, guys. I will also be sending you a query link towards the end, so you can post your queries there. But right now, if you have some immediate queries, you can put it in the chat window so that I can address that. Meanwhile, let me bring up today's case study. Okay. Everyone clear? Type CL, guys. Go ahead and type CL if you're clear so that I move ahead. Thank you, Nee. Okay. Today we are going to have a verbal round of quizzing. Okay. I'm going to go around the table and take some names and ask you questions about the concept that's discussed today. Okay. So I hope each one of you is taking notes because I'm going to call out names towards the end and ask you questions. Okay. Usually we circulate Google Forms to run you a quiz. Today I decided to do it in a different way. I'll call out names and ask questions, specific questions related to the concept that we are discussed today. Okay. So let's now talk about brainstorming as a technique. Brainstorming as a technique, I already mentioned, that's an idea generation technique. Everyone type idea in the chat box for you to remember what predominantly brainstorming is used for. Yes. And many of you must have also heard about brainstorming being used in schools and colleges, B schools, right? It's a technique that's not confined to IT or anything. It's used in various industries. Now, what happens in a brainstorming session is, if you are, as a business analyst, if you are hosting a brainstorming session, then there are a couple of rules that you need to follow to ensure that your brainstorming sessions is successful. So that's what we are going to discuss about. What are those rules and how do we have an effective brainstorming session? Okay, just give me a moment. Let me open the case study that we are going to discuss today. Couple of rules for brainstorming, note it down. Number one, first of all, define the topic. What are you going to brainstorm about? You have to be very clear about the topic, right? Without knowing the topic, you can't go ahead. So have clarity on that particular topic. Okay. So define the topic. Number two, determine the time limit. Okay. Whether it's going to be a 30-minute session or it's going to be a 1-hour session, inform all the stakeholders that you are going to do brainstorming and this is going to be a 1-hour session or a 30-minute session. So determine the time limit. Of course, identify who are the participants who can help you brainstorm on that particular topic. Okay. Naturally, the participants who are coming for the brainstorming session, they should have good knowledge of what you're going to talk about. For example, if you call stakeholders who are outside the project boundary and they don't have much knowledge about the application that you're building, does not serve the purpose, isn't it? You're wasting their time, you're wasting your time. So identify right participants. Establish an evaluation criteria. Very important. What is the criteria based on which you will select the ideas? There will be several ideas given to you by the participants. So establish that evaluation criteria. Share ideas. As the brainstorming session starts, as a host for the brainstorming session, ensure that you encourage all the participants to give ideas, share ideas, and record their ideas without validating these ideas. Don't think about whether this is a good idea or a bad idea. That's the first rule. So if you are the host for the brainstorming session and you are trying to brainstorm and come up with some new features a particular product should be having, and several participants are giving you, what they think should be added to the particular product. At that particular instance, when you are capturing the ideas, do not waste your time in thinking whether this is a good feature or a bad feature. Don't argue on that. You'll see many of the times when you start arguing on that, whether it's good or bad, some of the participants, they just drop off. That means they don't want to share their ideas anymore because they feel that, we are not given much importance. How many of you can relate with that? My ideas were knocked down as it is. Why should I, participate? So they go in a complete, disengaged mode. So as a host, never cancel out anybody's idea. Put it there in your log. Log all the ideas, record all the ideas, and elicit as many ideas as possible. Towards the end, you can categorize these ideas. You can create small categories of those ideas. And how do we come to know which are those ideas that you can take to the next level is, in your group itself, you can have a small voting mechanism. A voting mechanism by which you can ask the people, how many of you feel that we should go ahead with this particular feature? How many of you feel that this is one of the features that we should be having in the next version of our product? Depending upon the votes that you get, you can understand, okay, these many people feel that it's a valid feature to be included in the next version. So you tick that and take it forward. So that's how we narrow it down. That's how. So at the stage where you're collecting the ideas, never try to shoot it down. Just keep on collating. Towards the end, you will do the shortlisting. Everyone clear on that? Everyone clear? Great. So in today's session, we are going to talk about a very simple system so that even absolute beginners in business analysis can do this brainstorming. They can participate in this brainstorming. So our case study today revolves around a healthcare provider. Now you have been hired as a business analyst by this healthcare provider called as Health Plus. Okay. And your key role here is to implement an online patient portal. You have to build an online patient portal for this healthcare provider. The portal aims to provide patients easy access to their medical records, to their appointment schedules, prescription refills, and even direct communication with the healthcare providers. Okay, these are a couple of objectives. So let me in the chat window, type in, I'm not going to send this entire document or anything for you, but I have explained the brainstorming technique with you, and I'm going to see how effectively you are able to take this forward. So here in the chat window, I have just typed in the project background and the objective. Okay. So that you are very clear. So group leaders, when you are sent out in breakout rooms, group leaders ensure that you follow the rules. You set up the main topic of discussion, which you, of course, you know that, you are discussing the different features that the online patient portal should have. Okay. What are the key features the portal should have? That's your main goal. Then, of course, the two stakeholders that you will consider for this portal are doctors and patients. Of course, for this particular portal, we have many other stakeholders also, but we have a time constraint, right? So I'm going to give you 20 minutes for this exercise. In 20 minutes, we are going to do a brainstorming session and come up with some features that will be beneficial for patients as well as for doctors. So group leaders, when you're doing for brainstorming, first pick one stakeholder and discuss all features related to that stakeholder and then move to the next one. Otherwise, it will be a total chaos. Okay. So when you are discussing features for patients, focus only on patients and then move to the doctor's one. Okay. And we are going to use the mind mapping technique also, I told you. So brainstorming is when you will start throwing ideas. You're in a brainstorming session. We will use a draw.io tool to do a mind map. So I've already sent links to the group leaders for the tool. I believe each one of you have. Can you just confirm in the chat window, guys? In the Telegram group, you guys had received this. Type yes in the chat box. Pooja, Rishabh. Who else is there? Padma is also there. In your Telegram group, you'll find that particular link. And I'm going to open the tool here, guys, and show it to you. When you go to this tool, let me just share my screen now. Just give me a moment. Yes. So this is for the group leaders. Be very attentive, guys. Rishabh, Padma, Pooja, Senorita, Namrata, if you guys are there. Here. You will get this create new diagram. Very simple. Go to this. It will say maps. This is where you'll get the mind maps. Okay, you can select any of these. So actually, I will select this one. It will ask you to save the diagram. Save it. Okay, I also have one, a similar one. So it brings you to a sample template that's already there. Okay, so it's not something that we're just going to use this as a template. What you need to do is the central node, you can replace just double click on the central node and you can change the text of it to online portal. Double click and write online portal. You can remove the other nodes. We don't need this. All of the other extra nodes you can remove. We don't need it. We just need two sub nodes here. One for the doctor and the other for the patient. Okay. This is exactly what you're going to do, guys. Okay. And we don't even need this. Just remove, remove, remove. Okay. Instead of removing this, you can change the text. That's it. So that the box remains. So it's easier for you. Everyone got it, guys? You can remove these arrows also. Not spending too much of time on this. Just remove these arrows also. So we have online portal in the center node as a central node. Then we have patient and we have doctors. Okay. And as you start brainstorming, you can change this text. Okay. So this text is irrelevant over here. We are just using a template so that we can finish the activity as soon as possible. Okay. So just keep on changing these nodes. And whenever you want to add a new box, get one box from here. That's it. Don't worry about the color. Don't worry about anything. Just just write the idea. I just want to see the idea over there. Okay. So don't worry about having the same color as the other one. Okay. We should be effectively be able to draw a mind map at the end of the activity. All the color combination and everything you can do later as a home assignment. Don't worry about it. Everyone clear on this, guys? Rishabh, are you okay? Very simple activity. Central node and two nodes, doctor, patient, and it will have its own branches where you will write down the ideas the others are giving you. Okay. Now the idea names, don't make it sentences, long sentences. Short and crisp name of features. Like for example, if you feel search doctors feature. Just write search doctor. Don't say that this particular feature will enable. No sentences. Otherwise, we'll run out of time. Okay. So short and crisp, one or two words. That's it as a feature name. Everyone clear on this, guys? So we learn mind maps also, and we learn brainstorming also. Yes, Balaji, you have some question, is it? Just give me a moment, okay? Just give me a moment. Before I send out, we will do a Q&A before I send you out to breakout rooms. Just give me a moment. Let me bring it up.